Hello everyone, tonight we travel back more than a century into the wild, remote heart of Siberia to uncover one of the most powerful and baffling events in recorded history. It is a story of devastation, mystery, and endless speculation. This is the tale of the Tunguska Event, the colossal explosion of 1908 that flattened forests, shook the earth, and left behind a mystery that scientists and conspiracy theorists are still trying to solve. The date was June 30, 1908, and the location was a remote area near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River in Siberia, Russia. At around 7:15 in the morning, local villagers, reindeer herders, and hunters witnessed something extraordinary. A brilliant fireball streaked across the sky, brighter than the sun, leaving a glowing trail that cut across the heavens. Moments later, a massive explosion ripped through the wilderness. The blast was so powerful that it knocked people off their feet, shattered windows hundreds of miles away, and was heard as far as 500 kilometers from the epicenter. For the Evenki people, the indigenous reindeer herders of the region, the event was terrifying beyond comprehension. Many believed the gods were angry, or that a spiritual force had unleashed its wrath. Witnesses spoke of a fiery column descending from the sky, followed by a shockwave that flattened everything in its path. The explosion lit up the morning sky, and for days afterward, strange glowing skies were reported as far away as Europe, where people claimed they could read newspapers at midnight without artificial light. When the dust settled, the devastation became clear. More than 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers were scorched and flattened, radiating outward from a central point. It looked as though some unimaginable force had swept across the land, leaving behind a vast pattern of destruction. Yet, despite the scale of the blast, there was no crater, no impact site that could explain the force of an explosion estimated to be between 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, roughly 0 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. This strange absence of a crater has puzzled scientists ever since. If a meteorite or comet had struck the Earth, where was the evidence? Why was there no massive hole, no clear fragments of extraterrestrial rock? The Tunguska event seemed to defy the laws of physics as we understood them. For years, the event remained largely a mystery, in part because of the remoteness of Siberia. It wasn't until 1927, nearly 2 decades later, that the first scientific expedition, led by Leonid Kulik, ventured into the Tunguska region to investigate. Kulik expected to find a massive crater, but instead, he discovered the strange pattern of flattened trees, all pointing away from a central zone that was scorched but craterless. At the very center, some trees remained standing, but stripped of branches and bark, as if blasted by heat from above. Kulik interviewed local witnesses who spoke of a fiery object descending from the heavens, followed by a thunderous explosion that shook the ground like an earthquake. Some described the blast as a second sun appearing in the sky. These eyewitness accounts painted a picture of a cataclysmic event unlike anything in living memory. So what caused the Tunguska event? The most widely accepted scientific explanation is that a small asteroid or comet, perhaps 50 to 60 meters in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere at high speed. Instead of striking the ground, it is believed to have exploded in the atmosphere at an altitude of around 5 to 10 kilometers, releasing its immense energy in what is called an airburst. This would explain the lack of a crater, as the object disintegrated before reaching the surface. Yet, despite this explanation, the mystery endures. Why have no large fragments of the asteroid or comet ever been found? Why do some eyewitness reports describe phenomena that seem inconsistent with a simple airburst, such as strange glowing skies, intense magnetic disturbances, and lingering radiation effects? Some samples collected from the area showed microscopic metallic particles, but nothing that could definitively confirm the origin of the explosion. Over time, more theories have emerged, some scientific, others more speculative. One alternative theory is that the Tunguska event was caused by the explosion of a comet nucleus composed largely of ice and gas. Unlike rocky asteroids, comets could disintegrate more completely upon entering the atmosphere, leaving fewer physical remains. This could explain the absence of fragments, but it still leaves questions unanswered, such as the massive release of energy and the strange reports of glowing skies. Beyond scientific explanations, the Tunguska event has attracted countless conspiracy theories. Some suggest it was the result of a natural gas explosion from beneath the Earth, triggered by geological activity. Others believe it was caused by a small black hole passing through Earth, an idea that stretches the imagination, but illustrates just how baffling the event was to early researchers. Then there are theories that push into the realm of the extraordinary. Some claim that the explosion was the result of alien technology, perhaps a spacecraft that malfunctioned or deliberately destroyed itself in the atmosphere. A few even suggest that it was an experiment gone wrong, possibly linked to Nikola Tesla, who was working on high-energy wireless power transmission at the time. According to this fringe theory, Tesla may have tested his Wardenclyffe Tower by transmitting an energy beam across the world, inadvertently causing the Tunguska explosion. Though such theories lack concrete evidence, they reflect the enduring fascination with the mystery. The sheer scale of the event and the absence of a definitive explanation continue to inspire speculation. In the decades following the explosion, scientists continue to study the Tunguska region. Aerial surveys and satellite images revealed the incredible scope of the devastation. Millions of trees laid flat like matchsticks, radiating out in a butterfly pattern from the epicenter. Soil samples showed signs of height, temperature burning, yet no significant fragments of extraterrestrial rock were found. Even in modern times, the mystery remains alive. In 2007, a team of Italian researchers claimed to have found a possible impact crater at Lake Cheko, located about 8 kilometers from the suspected epicenter. They argued that the lake might have formed as a result of a fragment of the object striking the ground. However, other geologists dispute this, suggesting the lake is much older and unrelated to the event. The Tunguska event also raises an unsettling question: what if it had happened in a populated area? Siberia's remoteness spared humanity from a catastrophic loss of life, but if the same explosion had occurred over a major city, millions could have died instantly. It serves as a reminder of the potential dangers posed by near-Earth objects and the importance of monitoring the skies for future threats. The Tunguska event remains one of the greatest mysteries in modern science, not because we lack theories, but because none of them fully satisfy every question raised by the catastrophe. In Part 1, we explored the immediate devastation and the most widely accepted explanation, that a comet or asteroid exploded in the atmosphere. Now let us dig deeper into the competing theories, the evidence gathered over the years, and the strange cultural impact of this extraordinary explosion. When Leonid Kulik's expedition reached Tunguska in 1927, they documented the massive destruction, but were baffled by the absence of a crater. Kulik believed strongly that the explosion was caused by a meteorite impact, and he even persuaded the Soviet government to fund his expedition by promising the potential discovery of valuable meteorite iron. But when no such fragments were found, doubts began to grow. The mystery deepened with each passing decade. One of the strongest contenders for an explanation is the airburst theory. According to this model, the object disintegrated high above the surface, unleashing its energy in the sky. Supercomputers have since modeled such events, showing that asteroids or comets entering the atmosphere at steep angles and high speeds can indeed explode before reaching the ground. The shockwave from such an explosion would be enough to flatten forests for thousands of square kilometers, exactly as observed at Tunguska. The fiery trail and blinding flash described by witnesses also match this theory. But critics argue that the airburst explanation does not fully address all anomalies. For instance, many of the trees near the epicenter remained standing, stripped of branches but not topple, almost as though a downward blast of heat vaporized their crowns. This unusual pattern of destruction does not neatly fit standard airburst models. Further complicating matters are the reports of unusual atmospheric phenomena following the event. For days after the explosion, skies across Europe glowed brightly at night. In London, people claimed they could read newspapers outdoors at midnight without artificial light. Scientists suggest this was caused by fine particles or ice crystals ejected high into the atmosphere, reflecting sunlight across great distances. Yet, the scale and intensity of the phenomenon remain unusual, fueling alternative theories about exotic causes. Among these theories is the possibility that the Tunguska event was triggered by a cometary fragment. Unlike asteroids, comets are composed largely of ice and volatile gases. Entering Earth's atmosphere, such a body could vaporize completely, leaving little trace behind. This would explain the absence of a crater and the lack of large debris. Some researchers believe the Tunguska explosion was caused by a fragment of Inke's comet, which has crossed Earth's orbit for centuries. Still, no definitive link has ever been proven. Moving away from conventional explanations, more speculative theories have emerged over time. One of the most fascinating is the claim that Tunguska was the result of a geophysical event, a massive release of natural gas from beneath the Earth's crust. Siberia sits atop enormous reserves of methane trapped in permafrost. A sudden release of this gas, ignited by lightning or another spark, could theoretically cause an enormous explosion. Proponents of this theory argue that such a scenario could produce the observed blast pattern without requiring an extraterrestrial object. Yet, skeptics note the lack of geological evidence for such a massive outgassing event. Perhaps the most controversial theories are those that step entirely outside the realm of conventional science. Some ufologists believe that Tunguska was the result of an alien spacecraft that either exploded by accident or intentionally self-destructed. Supporters of this idea point to the lack of a crater, the unusual tree patterns, and the scale of the devastation as signs of advanced technology. To this day, documentaries and speculative writers revisit the idea of a doomed alien craft crashing into the Siberian wilderness. Of course, no evidence has ever been found to support this claim. Equally provocative is the Tesla theory. Around the same time as the Tunguska event, Nikola Tesla was conducting experiments with wireless transmission of energy at his Wardenclyffe Tower in New York. Tesla had claimed he could transmit massive amounts of energy across the planet without wires, and some theorists suggest he may have attempted a demonstration, possibly targeting a remote region like Siberia. In this scenario, the Tunguska explosion was not caused by a space rock at all, but by a directed energy experiment gone horribly wrong. While imaginative, this theory is not supported by mainstream historians, as there is no evidence Tesla had the capability to produce such a destructive effect. In recent years, modern scientific tools have continued to probe the mystery. Satellite imagery, seismic data, and computer simulations all point toward the airburst theory as the most plausible explanation. In 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor, which exploded over Russia, provided a modern example of how devastating an airburst can be. Though far smaller than Tunguska, the Chelyabinsk event shattered windows and injured over 1,000 people, lending weight to the idea that Tunguska was caused by a much larger body exploding in the sky. Even so, the Lake Cheko hypothesis remains intriguing. In 2007, Italian researchers proposed that a small fragment of the Tunguska object struck the ground, creating the nearby Lake Cheko. Their analysis of the lake's shape and sediment layers suggested it may be younger than the surrounding landscape, potentially dating to around 1908. Other geologists dispute this, claiming the lake predates the event by centuries. The debate continues, leaving room for further exploration. Beyond scientific inquiry, the Tunguska event has become embedded in popular culture and imagination. It appears in novels, films, and television shows, often as a symbol of unexplained catastrophe or alien intervention. For some, Tunguska is a cautionary tale about the dangers from the sky, a reminder that Earth is vulnerable to cosmic impacts at any time. For others, it is a symbol of mystery, a riddle that science cannot fully solve, and thus a canvas for speculation and wonder. The event also sparked serious discussions about planetary defense. If an object only tens of meters across could unleash such devastation, what would happen if a larger asteroid struck a populated area? The Tunguska event underscores the importance of tracking near-Earth objects and preparing strategies to prevent potential disasters. Modern space agencies, including NASA and ESA, have dedicated programs to monitor the skies for incoming threats, inspired in part by the lessons of Tunguska. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of Tunguska is the silence it left behind. No crater, no definitive debris, no single answer, just a flattened forest in the heart of Siberia, a pattern of destruction radiating outward like a cosmic fingerprint. More than a century later, scientists still debate the details, but the mystery endures. Was it an asteroid, a comet, a release of Earth's own natural power, or something far stranger, a technological experiment, or even contact with something beyond our world? The truth may never be fully known. What remains is the enduring mystery of that June morning in 1908, when the sky over Siberia exploded, and the Earth trembled beneath a force beyond human comprehension. And so ends the story of the Tunguska event. The explosion that shook Siberia defied explanation and continues to inspire awe, fear, and endless speculation.